She deserved it, but you didn't. Those 6 words didn't just break my heart. They shattered my entire world at 17 years old. My parents, Marcus and Victoria Chen, had just announced they'd saved enough money to send one of their daughters to college. Just one, and it wasn't me. While my younger sister Sophia beamed in her golden princess moment, I felt my dreams crumble into dust right there at our dinner table. What my parents didn't know was that I'd been secretly building something they couldn't even imagine, a digital empire worth more than my father's annual salary as an accountant. Where are you watching from? Drop your location below and hit like if you've ever been told you weren't worth investing in. By graduation day, their faces would drain of all color when they discovered the devastating truth about their so-called worthless daughter. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me tell you exactly how the family golden child became the family failure, and how I orchestrated the most satisfying revenge that left my parents questioning everything they thought they knew about success. Drop a comment below if you've ever been told you weren't worth investing in, because this story is for every person who's been underestimated by the people who should have believed in them most. Growing up in our picture-perfect suburban Seattle home, everything looked magazine-worthy from the outside. Marcus Chen, respected CPA with his own practice. Victoria Chen, beloved high school principal known for her dedication to students. 2 daughters, perfectly spaced 2 years apart, living in a 2-story house with the white picket fence and family photos displaying those forced smiles that hid our complicated reality. The only problem was that in my parents' eyes, I was completely invisible. From my earliest memories, the pattern was crystal clear. Sophia was the golden child, and I was the afterthought. She got the lead role in every school play while I painted sets in the background, invisible to the audience and apparently to my parents too. For her 13th birthday, Sophia received a brand new MacBook Pro for her artistic pursuits. For mine, I got a stack of notebooks and a lecture about being practical with resources. Sophia needs more encouragement with her natural talents, Mom would explain whenever I questioned the obvious disparity, as if I wasn't standing right there hearing every word. Even at 8 years old, I recognized the fundamental unfairness, but I learned to swallow my disappointment and paint on that grateful smile. Christmas mornings were absolute torture. Sophia would unwrap expensive art supplies, designer clothes, the latest iPhone, gaming systems, you name it. Meanwhile, I'd watch from my corner of the living room with my discount store craft kits and practical gifts that screamed, "We forgot about you until the last minute." Your sister has such potential, they'd say. We want to nurture her gifts. But there was one person who saw me, really saw me, and that was my paternal grandmother, Rose Chen. During our magical summer visits to her lakeside cabin in the mountains, she'd sit with me for hours while I sketched the water, trees, and wildlife. "You have a special way of seeing the world, Maya," she'd tell me, her weathered hands gentle on my shoulders. "You see patterns and possibilities that others miss. That's your superpower, sweetheart. Don't let anyone dim that brilliant light of yours." Those summers with Grandma Rose became my sanctuary, my lifeline in an ocean of family indifference. In her cozy library filled with entrepreneurship books and success stories, I discovered biographies of people like Oprah Winfrey, Howard Schultz, and Sarah Blakely. Individuals who'd built empires from absolutely nothing. I began developing dreams that reached far beyond just surviving my childhood. Dreams of proving my worth through achievements so undeniable that even my parents couldn't ignore them. By high school, I'd developed what you might call a resilient personality out of pure necessity. I joined every business-related club I could find and discovered I had a natural aptitude for mathematics and economics that surprised even my most supportive teachers. When I won the regional business plan competition as a sophomore, the youngest winner in the contest's 20-year history, my economics teacher, Mr. Rivera, personally called my parents to share the incredible news. "That's nice," Mom said after hanging up the phone, her attention already shifting. "Maya, did you remember to help Sophia with her history project? She has that important presentation tomorrow, and you know how nervous she gets." The dismissal was so casual, so automatic, that it took my breath away. Here I was, achieving something genuinely remarkable, and it rated less attention than Sophia's routine homework assignment. During junior year, I started working at a local coffee shop called The Daily Grind, ostensibly to save money for college, but really because I sensed I would need my own resources for whatever future I was going to create. I managed to maintain my perfect 4.0 GPA despite working 20 hours a week, while Sophia joined the debate team and instantly became their star performer. My parents attended every single tournament, cheering like she was competing for Olympic gold, celebrating each victory with special dinners and social media posts that painted them as the proudest parents in the world. The favoritism was so blatant that extended family members began to notice. During one holiday gathering, my Uncle David pulled me aside and asked quietly, "Maya, honey, are your parents treating you fairly? Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like Sophia gets all the attention and opportunities." I appreciated his concern. But what could I say? That my own parents saw me as a consolation prize? That every achievement I earned was met with indifference, while Sophia's smallest accomplishments were celebrated like national holidays? Instead, I just smiled and said everything was fine. I was becoming an expert at pretending everything was fine. By senior year, both Sophia and I were applying to colleges. Despite being 2 years apart in age, Sophia had skipped 8th grade, putting us in the same graduating class. We both applied to the prestigious Westfield University, known for its excellent business and political science programs, among others. Against all odds, or so my parents seemed to think, we both received acceptance letters on the exact same day in March. I still remember the excitement coursing through my veins as I tore open that thick envelope with trembling hands. The letterhead, the formal language, the word congratulations in bold at the top. "I got in," I announced at dinner, unable to contain my joy despite years of trained restraint. Full acceptance to Westfield's business program. They even mentioned my competition wins in the acceptance letter. My father glanced up briefly from his smartphone, gave me a distracted nod, and said, "That's nice, Maya," before immediately returning to whatever email had captured his attention. Minutes later, Sophia burst through our front door like a whirlwind, waving her own acceptance letter above her head. "I got into Westfield's political science program," she shrieked, her voice carrying throughout the entire house. The transformation in my parents was instant and breathtaking. Dad literally jumped up from his chair, his phone forgotten on the table. Mom rushed to embrace Sophia with tears in her eyes. Suddenly, our quiet Tuesday family dinner was abandoned for an impromptu celebration complete with champagne for the adults and sparkling cider for us girls. "We always knew you could do it, sweetheart," Mom gushed to Sophia, apparently having completely forgotten that I had announced the exact same achievement just minutes earlier. "Westfield only accepts the best and brightest. We're so incredibly proud of you." I sat there watching this celebration of my sister's accomplishment, the same accomplishment I'd just shared, feeling like I was observing my family through bulletproof glass, present but somehow fundamentally separate from their joy. 2 weeks later came the family meeting that would change the trajectory of my entire life. It was a rainy Thursday evening in late March when Dad called us all to the dining room for what he termed an important family discussion. We rarely had formal family meetings, so I knew something significant was coming. We all took our usual seats around our mahogany dining table, phones temporarily set aside, as Dad folded his hands and looked directly at Sophia. "We need to discuss college financial planning," he announced, his accountant voice taking over. "Your mother and I have been saving for your education since you were born, Sophia. We knew this day would come." He pulled out a folder thick with financial documents and spreadsheets. "Westfield's tuition is steep, about $60,000 a year with room and board, but we can cover everything entirely. You won't need to worry about student loans, work-study programs, or part-time jobs. You can focus completely on your studies and enjoy the full college experience." Sophia practically glowed with pride and relief, and I felt genuinely happy for her in that moment. College costs were astronomical, and knowing your education was fully funded had to feel incredible. But then the silence stretched uncomfortably long. I waited for Dad to pull out a second folder, to outline the plan for my education, to mention the savings account they'd surely set up for me too. The quiet grew so oppressive that I finally had to break it. "What about my tuition?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. The temperature in the room seemed to drop 20 degrees instantly. My parents exchanged one of those loaded glances, the kind that said they'd hoped I wouldn't ask this question, that they'd rehearsed this moment but still dreaded it. "Maya," my father said slowly, like he was explaining advanced calculus to a kindergartner, "we only have enough saved for one college education, and Sophia has always shown more academic promise and clearer career direction. We believe that investing in her education will yield better long-term returns for the family." The words hit me like physical blows. Academic promise? I had a perfect GPA, multiple competition wins, leadership positions in business clubs, clearer career direction. I'd been talking about entrepreneurship and business strategy since I was 15 years old. My mother reached across the table to pat my hand in what she probably thought was a comforting gesture, but felt more like someone petting a dog they were about to abandon at the shelter. "You've always been more independent anyway, sweetheart," she said with that patronizing tone I'd grown to hate. "You're resourceful and self-sufficient. You can take out student loans or maybe consider starting at community college to save money. Lots of successful people take non-traditional paths." Then came the words that would be burned into my memory forever. The words that would fuel everything that came next. "She deserved it, but you didn't." I stared at them, my parents, these people who were supposed to love and support me unconditionally, unable to process the depth of their betrayal. 17 years of trying to earn their approval, of competing for scraps of attention and recognition, had culminated in this ultimate dismissal of my worth. In their minds, I had never been enough. I never would be enough. That night, after the devastating dinner announcement, I locked myself in my bedroom and allowed the tears I'd been holding back for years to finally fall. The unfairness of it all crushed down on me like a physical weight. All those perfect report cards, all those competition wins, all those hours of trying to prove I was worthy of their investment. None of it had mattered. I had been systematically devalued by the two people whose opinion I desperately wanted to matter. But somewhere between the tears and the rage, something crystallized in my mind. If they wouldn't invest in me, I would invest in myself. If they couldn't see my potential, I would prove it in ways that would be impossible to ignore. The next morning, puffy-eyed and emotionally exhausted, I drove the 2 hours to Grandma Rose's lakeside cabin. I found her in her garden, tending to her roses in the early spring sunshine. When she saw my face, she immediately set down her gardening tools and wrapped me in one of her fierce hugs. Through my broken sobs, I told her everything. The college acceptances, the family meeting, the brutal dismissal, the words that had shattered my heart. Grandma Rose listened without interruption, her weathered hands holding mine tightly as tears ran down both our faces. "My darling girl," she finally said, her voice fierce with protective anger, "sometimes life's most painful moments become our greatest catalyst for transformation. Your parents are wrong about you. Deeply, tragically wrong. But you have something they can't recognize or understand. Unbreakable determination and a vision that reaches far beyond their limited imagination." She couldn't offer financial help. Her fixed income barely covered her own modest expenses, but she gave me something infinitely more valuable: unwavering belief in my potential and a challenge that would change everything. "Promise me you'll go to Westfield anyway," she said fiercely, gripping my hands. "Promise me you won't let their limitations become your limitations. You have greatness in you, Maya. I've seen it since you were a little girl, sketching by my lake. Don't let anyone convince you otherwise." That night, I made the decision that would transform my life. I would attend Westfield University alongside Sophia. I would finance my own education through whatever means necessary. And I would graduate not just successfully, but spectacularly. I would prove that their assessment of my worth was not just wrong, but catastrophically short-sighted. What my parents didn't know, what I'd been carefully hiding for over 2 years, was that those computer projects and art hobbies they'd dismissed had evolved into something extraordinary. While they assumed I was just posting on social media and playing around with graphics, I had actually been building and operating a sophisticated digital marketing agency. It started small during my sophomore year when I designed a website for the Daily Grind, where I worked. The owner was so impressed that he recommended me to other local business owners. Soon, I was creating social media campaigns, designing marketing materials, and developing comprehensive digital strategies for clients across 3 states. My coffee shop job was the perfect cover. The flexible schedule allowed me to take client calls during breaks, and my manager position gave me credibility when discussing business operations with potential clients. By senior year, my agency was generating more monthly revenue than Dad's accounting practice, but I kept every detail secret, funneling profits into carefully hidden savings accounts and investment portfolios. College hit me like a Category 5 hurricane. While most students were adjusting to dorm life, campus parties, and newfound freedom, I was balancing 30 work hours weekly with a full course load of challenging business classes. My typical day started at 5 a.m. with client work and email management, followed by a rushed commute to campus for morning classes. The contrast between my life and Sophia's couldn't have been more brutal. Through social media posts and occasional text messages, I glimpsed her carefree college experience. Sorority rush events, study abroad information sessions, weekend trips home for mom's home-cooked meals, and family movie nights. Meanwhile, I was calculating whether I could afford both required textbooks and groceries that month, often choosing one or the other. I lived in a tiny apartment 45 minutes from campus with 3 roommates I'd found through the university housing forum. The building was old, with unreliable plumbing and paper-thin walls that transmitted every argument and late-night party from neighboring units. My room was barely large enough for a twin bed, a desk, and a small dresser, but it was mine, and I was proud of earning every square foot of it. Despite the grueling schedule, something unexpected and wonderful began happening in my business classes. Years of real-world experience managing clients, budgets, and marketing campaigns had prepared me in ways my classmates couldn't match. While they struggled with basic accounting principles and marketing theory, I was applying these concepts in real time to my thriving business. Professor Dr. Harrison, who taught business ethics and strategy, stopped me after class during my second month. "Miss Chen, your analysis of today's case study was exceptional. Your perspectives on resource allocation and client relationship management show remarkable maturity and practical understanding. Have you had previous business experience?" I explained about my digital marketing work, carefully downplaying the scope and success to avoid seeming like I was bragging. Dr. Harrison's eyes lit up with genuine interest. "Would you be interested in discussing this further during my office hours?" I'm always fascinated by students who bring real-world experience to theoretical frameworks. That conversation began a mentorship that would change everything. Dr. Harrison became more than just a professor. She became an advocate, a guide, and eventually a crucial ally in my journey towards success. During this challenging time, I was also blessed with an unexpected friendship that became my lifeline. My roommate Alex Rivera noticed my punishing schedule and began leaving homemade meals in our shared refrigerator with my name on them. One night when I came home particularly exhausted after a 14-hour day, Alex was waiting up with a cup of chamomile tea and concerned eyes. "You can't keep going like this," Alex said bluntly, setting the steaming mug in front of me. "You'll burn out completely before midterms, and then what good will all this sacrifice do?" When I explained my situation, the family rejection, the financial pressure, the constant juggling act, Alex's expression shifted from concern to indignation on my behalf. "That's beyond unfair," Alex declared with the kind of fierce loyalty that instantly told me I'd found a true friend. "From now on, consider me your chosen family. Real family supports each other, and sometimes the family we choose matters more than the one we're born into." Alex became my sanctuary in the storm. She edited my papers when exhaustion made my thoughts blur together, created color-coded flashcards for my most challenging exams, and fiercely defended my study time from our other roommates' social interruptions. When she discovered I was occasionally skipping meals to stretch my grocery budget, she insisted on cooking enough for both of us, refusing any payment beyond help with her own coursework. "My parents taught me that family takes care of each other," she explained simply. You're working twice as hard as anyone I know just to be here. Just to be here. The least I can do is make sure you're fed properly. Midway through sophomore year, disaster struck in the form of seasonal cutbacks. The daily grind reduced everyone's hours due to slower winter business, cutting my income by nearly 40% overnight. My carefully constructed budget collapsed like a house of cards. With rent due and a substantial tuition payment looming, I faced my first major financial crisis since starting college. Panic rising in my chest, I remembered Miss Winters from the financial aid office and scheduled an emergency appointment. After reviewing my situation with sympathetic eyes, she offered both practical advice and unexpected assistance. Your academic performance qualifies you for an emergency hardship grant, she explained, pulling forms from her desk drawer. It's not huge, but it should cover your immediate shortfall. More importantly, Dr. Harrison has recommended you for a research assistant position in the business department. It pays significantly better than food service and looks much more impressive on resumes. The research assistant position became another crucial turning point in my journey. Working directly with Dr. Harrison on her study of small business resilience during economic downturns, I gained invaluable experience while earning steady income that accommodated my class schedule. More importantly, Dr. Harrison took a genuine interest in my future beyond just academic performance. "Have you seriously considered entrepreneurship as a career path?" she asked one afternoon as we analyzed survey data from struggling small businesses. "Your perspective on how resource constraints can drive innovation is quite sophisticated. Most students see limitations as obstacles, but you seem to view them as creative challenges." Her words planted a seed that had been germinating since high school. Using advanced skills I was learning in my marketing and digital media classes, I began formalizing my freelance work into a proper business structure. Working late into the night after my research duties, I built a professional website, developed comprehensive service packages, and created marketing materials that positioned my agency as a serious competitor in the digital space. By the beginning of junior year, my business had evolved enough that I could quit the daily grind entirely while actually increasing my overall income. I maintained the research position more for Dr. Harrison's mentorship than the money, but the combination of my agency profits and research stipend finally provided the financial stability I'd been chasing since freshman year. As my business grew, so did my confidence in academic settings. In business strategy class, I began speaking up more frequently, sharing insights drawn from real-world client experiences. Professors took notice, and classmates began seeking my advice on their projects and case study analyses. The girl who had once felt invisible was becoming a respected voice in the department. Meanwhile, Sophia and I maintained what could generously be called a cordial but distant relationship. She would occasionally invite me to sorority events or campus activities, which I nearly always declined due to work commitments. We rarely discussed our dramatically different college experiences, maintaining the surface-level conversations that had characterized our relationship since childhood. Our parents called Sophia weekly, but reached out to me only for major holidays or family emergencies. During one Thanksgiving break when I couldn't afford the trip home, Mom texted, "We miss you at dinner, but we understand you're busy with your projects. Hope you're taking care of yourself." The casual dismissal of my absence, reducing my financial constraints to being busy with projects, might have devastated me in earlier years. By junior year, their lack of understanding barely registered as a blip on my emotional radar. Despite their continued indifference, my academic performance was becoming impossible to ignore even from a distance. I made the dean's list every semester, received multiple departmental awards, and was invited to present at a regional business conference where my paper on digital marketing strategies for small business growth earned recognition from industry professionals. Each achievement strengthened my determination to prove that my path was not just valid but superior to the traditional route they'd chosen for Sophia. More importantly, each success convinced me that my worth had never been determined by their recognition. I had always been capable and valuable. Their failure to see it reflected their limitations, not mine. By the end of junior year, my digital marketing agency had evolved into a legitimate business, employing 3 fellow business students as part-time associates. We were serving clients across 5 states, generating enough profit for me to start repaying some of my smaller loans early and attracting attention from business publications interested in student entrepreneurship stories. Dr. Harrison nominated me for the prestigious Richardson Entrepreneurial Excellence Scholarship, which covered my entire senior year tuition plus a small living allowance. "You've earned this through extraordinary effort and innovation," she told me when I received the award notification. "Your story exemplifies the very entrepreneurial spirit this university was founded to nurture and celebrate." For the first time since starting college, I felt the crushing weight of financial insecurity begin to lift. The future I had glimpsed in those entrepreneurship books at Grandma Rose's house was materializing through my own determined efforts, despite every obstacle my family had placed in my path. What I didn't realize was that my success story was becoming quietly famous within the business department and beyond. As I focused on surviving and thriving, seeds were being planted that would bloom in the most spectacular way at graduation. Senior year arrived with momentum I could scarcely have imagined when I first stepped onto Westfield's campus with my second-hand suitcases and desperate determination. My digital marketing agency had grown to serve 15 regular clients spanning multiple industries, employed 4 part-time student workers who earned more than most campus jobs paid, and was featured in Regional Business Magazine as an example of successful student entrepreneurship. The magazine article brought a steady stream of new clients and speaking opportunities, establishing my professional reputation far beyond the university community. I was invited to guest lecture in 3 different business classes, sharing real-world insights that complemented traditional academic instruction. In October, Dr. Harrison approached me with an opportunity that would change everything. The National Collegiate Business Innovation Competition is accepting entries for their annual championship. The grand prize includes $50,000 in business funding, national industry exposure, and automatic consideration for several prestigious post-graduation opportunities. Maya, I genuinely believe your agency model, specifically targeting underserved small businesses with comprehensive digital solutions, has a real shot at winning. With her mentorship and support, I spent weeks refining my business plan and preparing for increasingly competitive rounds of judging. My presentation incorporated everything I had learned about resilience, resource optimization, and creating value from constraint. When the judges announced that I had advanced to the final round, scheduled for April just 1 month before graduation, I felt a validation that transcended money and recognition. Ironically, as my professional trajectory soared to new heights, Sophia began experiencing her first real academic struggles. The political science program's demanding senior thesis requirements exposed gaps in her research skills and work ethic that years of coasting on natural talent and parental support had masked. She had never learned to work independently, to push through difficulty, or to create something entirely from her own effort. One Tuesday evening in November, I received an unexpected knock on my apartment door. Opening it revealed a tearful, desperate Sophia clutching her laptop and a stack of disheveled research papers. "Maya, I'm completely failing my thesis seminar," she confessed in a rush, her usual confidence replaced by genuine panic. "Professor Goldstein says my research methodology is fundamentally flawed and my analysis is superficial. I have 3 weeks to completely restructure everything or I might not graduate. I don't know what to do. I've never had to work this hard for anything." Looking at my sister's genuine distress, I felt a complex mix of emotions wash over me. Part of me, the hurt, resentful part that remembered years of favoritism and dismissal, thought this was karmic justice finally catching up with the golden child. But another part, the part that had grown and matured through my own struggles, recognized this moment as an opportunity to rise above the pain of our past and become the person I wanted to be, regardless of how I'd been treated. "Come in," I said, stepping aside and clearing papers from my small couch. "Let's take a look at what you're working with." That night became the first of many study sessions that would fundamentally change our relationship. Through helping Sophia, I discovered that my years of self-directed learning rigorous time management, and research experience with Dr. Harrison had given me skills my sister had never been forced to develop. My ability to synthesize complex information, construct logical arguments, and manage multiple deadlines simultaneously had been forged in the fire of necessity. As we worked together night after night, something unexpected and wonderful happened. We began to talk, really talk, for perhaps the first time in our adult lives. The competitive dynamic our parents had created began dissolving as we collaborated rather than competed. "How do you do it all?" Sophia asked one night as we took a break from restructuring her thesis outline. "Your business, perfect grades, research position, all these awards and opportunities. I can barely manage my coursework with nothing else on my plate. I feel like I don't know how to actually work for anything." I explained my journey honestly. The 60-hour weeks, the constant financial pressure, the calculations required to afford both textbooks and groceries. Sophia listened with growing horror and what I recognized as genuine shame. "I had no idea," she whispered when I finished. "Mom and Dad always just said you were doing fine and figuring things out. They made it sound like you chose this path, like you wanted to be independent. I never realized they had basically abandoned you financially." "Would it have changed anything if you had known?" I asked, not accusingly, but with genuine curiosity. Would Mom and Dad suddenly have decided I was worth investing in too? The question hit her hard. I don't know, but I should have asked. I should have paid attention. I was so focused on enjoying the advantages I had that I never questioned why you didn't have the same ones. That conversation marked a fundamental turning point in our relationship. As Sophia began to truly understand the inequality that had shaped our lives, she became my unexpected ally and advocate. She started declining some of the expensive gifts and experiences our parents offered, explaining that she preferred to learn independence and self-sufficiency, like Maya. Our weekly study sessions evolved into genuine sisterhood, untangling our relationship from the competitive framework our parents had constructed. Sophia's thesis got back on track, and she began developing appreciation for the discipline and perseverance she had never needed to cultivate. Meanwhile, my senior project and overall academic performance had attracted attention from university administration at the highest levels. In February, Dean Rodriguez, head of the business school, invited me to her office for what she described as an important conversation about your future. "Maya, your journey at Westfield has been absolutely extraordinary," she began, gesturing for me to take a seat in one of the comfortable chairs facing her desk. "From financing your own education to building a successful business while maintaining perfect academic performance, you represent exactly the kind of success story we want to highlight and celebrate." She explained that the university selected one exceptional student annually to deliver a short address at graduation, representing the values and achievements the institution wanted to embody. "We would like you to consider representing the business school this year. Your story demonstrates the entrepreneurial spirit, determination, and innovation we aim to instill in all our graduates. The opportunity to speak at graduation, to publicly claim my achievements before my parents, extended family, and the entire university community felt like the perfect culmination of everything I had worked toward. I accepted immediately, though Dean Rodriguez hinted there might be additional elements to the ceremony I would discover later. "Some surprises are worth waiting for," she said with a mysterious smile that made me curious but also slightly nervous. As April approached, the National Business Competition became my primary focus outside of regular coursework. My final presentation incorporated not just business metrics and growth projections, but the entire philosophy I had developed about turning constraints into competitive advantages. When the judges announced my victory, awarding me the $50,000 grand prize and a feature in National Business Innovation magazine, I felt a validation that transcended money or recognition. The university newspaper ran a front-page story about my win, featuring a photo of me accepting the oversized check and trophy. I immediately sent a copy to Grandma Rose, who called me sobbing with pride and joy. "I always knew you were extraordinary, my darling girl," she said through happy tears. "Now everyone else knows it too. Your parents may have been blind, but the whole world can see your light shining. My parents, notably, did not mention the newspaper article, the national competition victory, or any of the recognition I had been receiving. Their silence had long since ceased to surprise or hurt me. My worth was no longer tied to their acknowledgement. 2 weeks before graduation, our parents arrived in town with great fanfare to help Sophia prepare for the ceremony. They rented a large vacation house to accommodate extended family coming to celebrate, planned elaborate parties and dinners, and seemed to treat the entire week like a festival honoring their successful daughter. I received a perfunctory invitation that made crystal clear I was an afterthought in their celebration plans. "We assumed you'd be busy with work and your projects," Mom explained when I mentioned being excluded from most family gatherings. "But you're welcome to join us, if you can make it. We know how independent you prefer to be." The casual dismissal might have stung in previous years, but by this point, their lack of interest barely registered. My worth was no longer determined by their attention or approval. The day before graduation, Grandma Rose arrived with a special gift that brought tears to my eyes. She presented me with a custom graduation stole, embroidered with words that had sustained me through the darkest times. "Diamonds are made under pressure." "Wear this proudly tomorrow," she said, her eyes shining with fierce love and pride. "You've earned every thread, every sequin, every moment of recognition that's coming your way." That evening, the extended family gathered for dinner at an upscale restaurant downtown. Aunts, uncles, cousins, and grandparents crowded around tables pushed together to accommodate everyone. My parents held court at the center, regaling the assembled relatives with detailed stories of Sophia's accomplishments, her post-graduation plans, and their pride in her success. After about an hour of this one-sided celebration, my Uncle David finally interrupted the monologue. "What about Maya? I heard through the grapevine that she won some major national business competition. That sounds pretty impressive." Dad waved dismissively, not even looking in my direction. "Oh, Maya's been busy with her little side projects. Very entrepreneurial, our Maya. Always has some scheme or another going." The patronizing tone made absolutely clear that in his mind, my achievements remained secondary to Sophia's traditional academic success. I caught my sister's eye across the table and saw her visible discomfort with our father's dismissive attitude. Uncle David pressed further. "But didn't she start some kind of business? And isn't she graduating with honors?" "Maya's always been good with computers," Mom added vaguely, as if my digital marketing agency was equivalent to being able to set up a Facebook account. "She'll figure out something that works for her." I remained calm throughout this exchange, no longer needing their validation or recognition. Tomorrow would bring the ultimate revelation, and I was content to let events unfold naturally. After dinner, I noticed Grandma Rose corner my parents in the restaurant lobby. Though I couldn't hear the conversation, the tense postures and my father's defensive gestures told me she was delivering a long-overdue reality check about their treatment of me. When she returned to where I was waiting, her expression was a mixture of satisfaction and frustration. "Some people," she said loudly enough for my parents to hear, "are too proud and stubborn to admit when they've made terrible mistakes. But tomorrow, the whole world will see the truth." As I returned to my apartment that night, I felt strangely calm and centered. Tomorrow would mark not just the completion of my degree, but the vindication of every choice I'd made, every sacrifice I'd endured, and every moment I'd believed in myself when no one else would. The morning of graduation dawned bright and clear, as if nature itself was celebrating the momentous day ahead. I woke early, unable to sleep through the mixture of excitement and nervous anticipation that had been building for weeks. Today marked not just the completion of my education, but the public revelation of everything I had accomplished despite, or perhaps because of, my family's lack of support. After a quick breakfast, I carefully dressed in the outfit I had splurged on for this occasion. An elegant navy dress that conveyed both professionalism and confidence, paired with comfortable but stylish shoes, I could walk in confidently across the graduation stage. As I fastened Grandma Rose's special embroidered stole around my shoulders, I allowed myself a moment to truly feel the weight of this accomplishment. 4 years ago, my parents had deemed me unworthy of their investment. Today, I would graduate not just with highest honors, but with a thriving business, national recognition, and unlimited potential. The journey had been brutally difficult, but the woman who emerged was stronger, more capable, and more successful than I could have imagined when I first set foot on campus with nothing but determination and a dream. Alex insisted on driving me to campus in her car, rather than letting me take the bus on such an important day. "Your chariot awaits, boss lady," she joked, but I could see the genuine pride and affection in her eyes. "No more public transportation for you today. You deserve to arrive in style." The campus buzzed with activity as families in their Sunday best navigated between buildings, consulting maps and taking photos at every landmark. The atmosphere was electric with excitement, pride, and anticipation. At the student assembly area, graduates in black robes clustered like elegant birds, adjusting caps and comparing honor cords while family members snapped endless photos. I spotted Sophia instantly. Her blonde hair was visible even from a distance, perfectly styled beneath her mortarboard. She rushed over when she saw me, embracing me with unexpected emotion and genuine warmth. "Can you believe we actually made it?" she asked, straightening my cap with sisterly care. "Though I barely scraped by while you absolutely conquered this place. I'm so proud to be walking across that stage with you today." Her humility and genuine admiration were still new enough to surprise me, representing how much our relationship had evolved from the competitive dynamic our parents had fostered. The ceremony coordinator began arranging us in alphabetical order, which would place Sophia and me close together in the processional line. As we found our designated positions, I noticed Dean Rodriguez approaching with purposeful strides and a conspiratorial expression. "Miss Chen," she said, pulling me gently aside from the other graduates, "just confirming our arrangement for today's ceremony. After the conferring of degrees, President Martinez will announce special recognitions. You'll be called up first for your student address, and then—" She lowered her voice with barely contained excitement. "We have several additional acknowledgments planned that I think will surprise even you." When I asked for more details, she smiled mysteriously. "Better to let everything unfold naturally. Just be prepared for your moment in the spotlight to last a bit longer than a typical student speech. You've earned every second of recognition coming your way." The graduates began filing into the massive auditorium to the traditional strains of pomp and circumstance. Through the tall windows, I caught glimpses of the audience, thousands of family members and friends filling the enormous space with excited chatter, proud tears, and occasional shouts of recognition as graduates passed by. As we marched down the center aisle in our academic procession, I scanned the family section and quickly spotted my parents seated in premium positions near the front. Dad wore his navy suit reserved for important client meetings, while Mom had chosen an elaborate floral dress and matching hat combination that practically screamed important occasion. Their eyes tracked Sophia with obvious pride and anticipation as she walked just a few people ahead of me in line. Grandma Rose sat beside them, elegant and dignified in her simple blue dress, her gaze fixed firmly on me with unmistakable love and pride, radiating from her weathered face. When our eyes met across the crowded auditorium, she nodded once, a gesture containing all her fierce belief in me and anticipation for what was about to unfold. The ceremony proceeded with the expected speeches about future potential, the responsibility that comes with education, and the importance of using our knowledge to make positive contributions to society. I half listened while mentally rehearsing my upcoming address and managing the butterflies performing acrobatics in my stomach. Finally, the moment arrived for the conferring of degrees. We rose by academic departments, crossing the stage in groups to receive our diplomas and shake hands with university officials. The business school was called early in the alphabetical progression, and I felt my heart racing as we lined up at the base of the stage stairs. When my name was announced, Maya Chen, Bachelor of Science in Business Administration, magna cum laude, I heard Grandma Rose's distinctive whistle cutting through the polite applause like a victory cry. Sophia, returning to her seat after receiving her own diploma, gave me an enthusiastic thumbs up and mouthed, "You did it," as we passed each other. After all degrees had been conferred and we had returned to our seats, University President Martinez approached the podium again with a warm smile and additional notes in his hand. Before we conclude today's ceremony, he announced, his voice carrying clearly through the now silent auditorium, we have several special recognitions to present. These honors celebrate exceptional achievement, determination, and the embodiment of our university's core values. My heart began pounding as I realized this was the moment Dean Rodriguez had been hinting about. First, I invite Maya Chen of the School of Business to deliver this year's student address. As I made my way to the stage amid respectful applause, I caught a glimpse of my parents' faces for the first time that day. Confusion was evident in their expressions. They clearly hadn't expected their less promising daughter to receive this honor, and I could see them exchanging puzzled glances. Taking the podium, I drew a deep breath and began the speech I had crafted to tell my story without self-pity or blame, focusing instead on universal themes of resilience and self-determination. 4 years ago, I arrived at Westfield with nothing but determination and the unshakable belief that education should be earned, not simply given, I began, my voice steady and confident. Today, I stand before you having worked 30 hours weekly while maintaining a full course load, building a successful business that employs fellow students and graduating with highest honors. I spoke about resilience, about finding strength in adversity, and about the power of redefining success on your own terms rather than accepting others' limitations. Without directly mentioning my parents or our family dynamics, I addressed the universal human experience of being underestimated and the transformative power of proving skeptics wrong through action rather than words. The greatest gift of my Westfield education wasn't found in textbooks or lectures, though both were invaluable, I continued, feeling the engaged attention of thousands of listeners. It was discovering that limitations placed upon us by others need not become our own limitations. Each of us has the capacity to transcend expectations and create our own definitions of success and worth. As I concluded my speech to enthusiastic applause from graduates and families alike, President Martinez returned to the microphone with an expression of barely contained excitement. What happened next would forever change the dynamics of my family and vindicate every sacrifice I had made. Thank you, Ms. Chen, for those inspiring and deeply meaningful words, President Martinez said as the applause gradually quieted. And now I have the distinct pleasure of announcing several special recognitions that exemplify the excellence, innovation, and determination we strive to foster at Westfield University. He paused dramatically, consulting his notes before looking directly at me with unmistakable pride. First, the faculty of the School of Business has unanimously selected Maya Chen as this year's valedictorian, graduating with a perfect 4.0 GPA while simultaneously building and operating a business now valued at over 6 figures. A murmur of impressed appreciation rippled through the crowd. I stood frozen beside the podium, not having expected this level of public acknowledgement. In the audience, I could see my parents' expressions beginning to shift from confusion to shock as the magnitude of what they were hearing started to register. Additionally, President Martinez continued, his voice growing stronger with each revelation, Ms. Chen is this year's winner of the National Collegiate Business Innovation Competition, bringing unprecedented recognition and a $50,000 prize to our university's entrepreneurship program. The audience's applause grew significantly stronger. I dared another glance toward my parents and watched their faces cycling through disbelief, shock, and something approaching horror as they began to comprehend the full scope of what they had dismissed and ignored. But President Martinez wasn't finished. What many of you may not know, he went on, his voice now carrying clearly through the completely silent auditorium, is that Ms. Chen accomplished these extraordinary achievements while fully self-financing her education, working multiple jobs, building her business from scratch, and maintaining perfect academic performance, all without any family financial support whatsoever. This revelation sent a visible ripple of shock through the entire audience. Parents looked at each other with expressions ranging from disbelief to admiration to judgment. The implications were clear to everyone. Here was a student who had achieved more than most while receiving less support than anyone. In recognition of her extraordinary journey and exceptional accomplishments, President Martinez announced, building to his final crescendo, "I am pleased to share that Ms. Chen has been offered a position with Reynolds Global Consulting, one of the nation's premier business strategy firms, at a starting salary that reflects her proven capabilities and potential." He paused to let this sink in before delivering the final blow that would shatter my parents' remaining composure. Furthermore, Ms. Chen's entrepreneurial journey and business philosophy will be featured as the cover story of next month's Business Innovation magazine, highlighting her as a rising star in the national business community. Her story will serve as inspiration for aspiring entrepreneurs across the country. The audience erupted in a thunderous standing ovation that seemed to last forever. Through the sustained applause and cheers, I watched as my parents' faces drained of every last drop of color. Their expressions morphed from shock to something approaching horror as they realized that everyone, absolutely everyone, now knew they had refused to support the daughter being celebrated as the university's most outstanding graduate. The contrast with their treatment of Sophia, sitting in expensive clothes they had purchased in the same section where they had prime seats they had paid for, could not have been more stark or publicly humiliating. But President Martinez had one final announcement that would immortalize this moment. In honor of Ms. Chen's remarkable example of turning adversity into achievement, he declared as the applause finally began to quiet, "The University Board has voted to establish the Maya Chen Resilience Scholarship, providing financial assistance to students demonstrating exceptional determination in overcoming obstacles to their education." The symbolic victory was now complete and permanent. Not only had I succeeded spectacularly despite my parents' lack of faith, but my name would be forever associated with supporting other students facing similar challenges. The daughter they had deemed unworthy of investment now had a scholarship program bearing her name. As I returned to my seat amid continued applause and congratulations from fellow graduates, Sophia grabbed my hand and squeezed it tightly, with tears streaming down her face. "You are absolutely incredible," she whispered fiercely, "and they were so completely, catastrophically wrong about you. I'm proud to be your sister." The remainder of the ceremony passed in an emotional blur of vindication and overwhelming validation. When it finally concluded, graduates scattered to find their families among the dispersing crowd, but I was immediately surrounded by professors, classmates, and even strangers who wanted to congratulate me and express their admiration for my journey. Dr. Harrison pushed through the crowd to embrace me with tears in her eyes. "Maya, I have never been more proud of a student. You have exceeded every expectation and proven that character and determination matter more than circumstances." Dean Rodriguez appeared next, beaming with satisfaction. "The business magazine wants to schedule your photo shoot next week. This story is going to inspire thousands of students who think their dreams are impossible." Through the crowd of well-wishers, I eventually spotted my parents standing awkwardly with Grandma Rose, their usual confident postures replaced by uncomfortable stiffness and visible shame. Several relatives surrounded them, clearly pressing for explanations about why they had never mentioned my business, my awards, or any of my accomplishments during years of family gatherings. When I finally approached the family group, my father attempted a jovial tone that rang completely hollow against the tension and judgment radiating from extended family members. "Well, this was quite a surprise," he said, his forced smile not reaching his eyes. "You've been holding out on us, Maya. We had no idea you were doing so well." The audacity of his comment, suggesting I had somehow been secretive rather than ignored, might have devastated me in previous years. Now it barely registered as anything more than a predictable deflection of responsibility. "Not at all," I replied with cool composure. "I've been exactly who I've always been, achieving exactly what I've always been capable of. You just weren't paying attention." Before my parents could respond with more hollow justifications, Sophia stepped forward and put her arm around my shoulders in a clear, public display of solidarity and support. "Everyone here is talking about Maya's incredible accomplishments. she announced loudly enough for nearby families and relatives to hear clearly. Isn't it amazing how she managed to achieve all this without any support? I can't imagine how much more she could have accomplished if she'd had the same advantages and encouragement I received. Our mother visibly flinched at this public acknowledgement of their favoritism and differential treatment. Uncle David and several other relatives watched this interaction with newly critical and judgmental eyes, clearly reassessing everything they thought they knew about our family dynamics. Perhaps we should continue this conversation at home, Dad suggested tersely, obviously uncomfortable with the public scrutiny and implicit criticism from family members who were now seeing our situation with clear eyes. Actually, I replied calmly, I have a celebration planned with my business team, mentors, and the people who have been my real support system these past 4 years. I wouldn't miss it for anything in the world. Grandma Rose stepped forward then, taking my hand in her gnarled but strong fingers with unmistakable pride and defiance. I'm coming with you, she declared loudly enough for my parents and gathered relatives to hear. I want to meet these wonderful people who recognized what your own parents were too blind to see. The blunt statement hung in the air like an indictment. For perhaps the first time in my life, I saw something that might have been genuine regret flash across my mother's face. We're very proud of you, of course, she attempted weakly, her voice lacking any conviction. Thank you, I replied with dignified grace that felt like the ultimate victory. But I've learned that external validation, even from family, isn't necessary for success or self-worth. Today isn't about gaining your approval. It's about celebrating the journey I made without it and the bright future I've created through my own efforts. As Grandma Rose and I turned to leave, Sophia made a quick but significant decision. She stepped away from our parents to join us, choosing to celebrate with the family members who valued achievement and character over arbitrary favoritism. The sight of both daughters walking away together, having outgrown the constraints and limitations of parental expectations in different but equally meaningful ways, left Marcus and Victoria Chen standing alone among the celebrating families. Their carefully constructed narratives about their children's relative worth and potential crumbled before the undeniable truth that the daughter they had dismissed had become everything they claimed to value, while the daughter they had favored was just beginning to learn the skills that would make her truly successful. The celebration at the business school reception could not have been more different from the tense family interaction we had just left behind. The elegant gathering in the university's Executive Conference Center brought together faculty, outstanding graduates, industry partners, and successful alumni in an atmosphere of genuine accomplishment and mutual respect. Crystal champagne flutes, elaborate hors d'oeuvres, and congratulatory banners created a sophisticated environment where real achievements were recognized and celebrated. Sophia looked around with wide, amazed eyes as we entered the reception. This is so different from the political science department gathering, she whispered to me. Everyone here seems to actually know each other personally, and they're talking about real business deals and opportunities. The business school became my true academic home, I explained as we moved through the crowd. These people saw my potential and supported my growth when our parents couldn't or wouldn't. They became my chosen professional family. Alex Rivera rushed over immediately, engulfing me in a congratulatory hug before introducing herself warmly to Grandma Rose and Sophia. I've heard so much about both of you, the supportive grandmother who never stopped believing, and the sister who finally woke up to how amazing Maya really is. Sophia blushed at the gentle teasing but accepted it with good humor. Better late than never, I hope. I'm just grateful I figured it out while there was still time to build a real relationship with my sister. Dean Rodriguez approached our group next, carrying champagne flutes and wearing the satisfied expression of someone whose faith had been completely vindicated. Maya Chen, the woman of the hour, she beamed, distributing glasses to everyone. And this must be the remarkable grandmother who believed in her from the very beginning. As Dean Rodriguez and Grandma Rose chatted about my journey and achievements, I watched Sophia observing this network of supporters I had built, people who valued me for my actual accomplishments, rather than some preconceived notion of potential or favoritism. The contrast with our parents' conditional approval couldn't have been more obvious or meaningful. Miss Chen called a distinguished woman in an elegant business suit, approaching our group with confident strides. Jennifer Reynolds, founder and CEO of Reynolds Global Consulting. Your presentation at the business competition was extraordinary, innovative, practical, and delivered with remarkable poise. I'm absolutely thrilled you've accepted our offer. Thank you for the incredible opportunity, I replied, shaking her hand with the confidence I had earned through years of real business experience. I'm excited to contribute to your team and learn from some of the best strategic minds in the industry. Jennifer smiled with genuine warmth and respect. With your combination of academic excellence, practical business experience, and proven leadership abilities, you're exactly what we look for in new consultants. Not many recent graduates have already built and operated a successful business while maintaining perfect academic performance. As she moved away to greet other guests, Sophia's expression registered genuine shock and awe. Maya, you didn't tell me you'd be working for Reynolds Global. That's one of the most prestigious consulting firms in the country. Do you have any idea how competitive those positions are? I smiled modestly, though inside I felt tremendous pride in how far I had come. The opportunity developed quickly after the competition win. The starting salary is, well, let's just say it's substantially more than Dad makes with his accounting practice. More than Dad makes, Sophia repeated thoughtfully, the implications of this statement clearly sinking in. You mean the daughter they said wasn't worth investing in is going to out-earn the man who made that decision? Throughout the afternoon, I had the pleasure of introducing Grandma Rose to everyone who had supported my journey, professors who had mentored me, university staff who had helped me navigate financial challenges, classmates who had become business associates, and industry professionals who had recognized my potential early. Each introduction included the person sharing a specific memory of how I had impressed them, contributed to the department, or exceeded their expectations. I had no idea so many people admired and respected you, Lily murmured after the 10th such introduction. All these successful, accomplished people see you as someone special, someone with real potential and proven abilities. Dr. Harrison approached with a campus photographer in tow. The magazine wants a photo of you with your family for the feature article. Are your parents here? The question created an awkward pause that spoke volumes about our family dynamics. My grandmother and sister are here, I replied carefully. My parents are elsewhere at the moment. Understanding dawned immediately in Dr. Harrison's eyes. She had heard enough of my story over the years to read between the lines. The family that matters is the one that supports and believes in you, she said kindly but firmly. Let's get a beautiful photo of the three of you together. The photographer arranged us near the business school's emblem and achievement wall. Grandma Rose beamed with unmistakable pride, one arm around each granddaughter. Sophia and I stood together in our graduation regalia, my special embroidered stole prominently displayed, representing not just our academic achievement, but our evolved relationship and mutual respect. As the reception began winding down, Dean Rodriguez handed me an elegant business card. The Dean of Admissions for Westfield's MBA program specifically asked me to give you this. They're very interested in discussing a full scholarship opportunity if you decide to pursue graduate education while working. Your undergraduate record and business experience make you an ideal candidate. The opportunities continuing to unfold before me stood in stark contrast to the limited future my parents had once envisioned, or failed to envision, for their supposedly less promising daughter. Should we go to the family dinner? Sophia asked as we prepared to leave the reception. I know Mom and Dad are expecting us, and the extended family will be there. I considered the question carefully. Part of me wanted to avoid what would certainly be an uncomfortable confrontation. But another part recognized that there might be value in allowing my parents and relatives to see exactly who I had become, not for their sake, but for my own sense of completion and closure. Grandma Rose took my hand with understanding wisdom. That decision is entirely yours, my dear. You owe them nothing after how they treated you. But, she added after a thoughtful pause, There might be value in letting them witness the full scope of what they missed, what they failed to recognize and support. Sometimes the people who hurt us most need to confront the consequences of their choices. Sophia nodded in agreement. Plus, I'd really like to see Uncle David continue grilling them about why they never mentioned your business success, your awards, or any of your achievements at family gatherings. The questions he was asking earlier were making them very uncomfortable. Decision made, we drove to the rental house where extended family had gathered for what was supposed to be a celebration of both graduates. The conversation visibly hushed as we entered, then erupted in enthusiastic greetings as relatives rushed to congratulate both Sophia and me on our achievements. But the dynamic had shifted dramatically since the morning. Where my parents had always been the confident, authoritative center of family gatherings, they now sat uncomfortably as relatives asked pointed questions about my business, my national competition win, and my prestigious job offer, accomplishments they clearly knew nothing about despite having had years to inquire. Mom appeared from the kitchen with an obviously forced smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Maya, you came. We were just about to serve dinner. Everyone's so excited to hear about your projects." The casual dismissal of my demonstrated achievements as mere projects might have crushed me in earlier years. Now it simply highlighted how fundamentally they still failed to understand or acknowledge what I had accomplished. Dad approached with equally forced joviality that rang hollow against the judgment radiating from assembled relatives. "There are my successful daughters," he announced loudly, as if he had been proudly proclaiming my achievements all along. "Maya, you really surprised us today. Why didn't you tell us about this big consulting job?" The sheer audacity of his question, suggesting that I had somehow been secretive rather than systematically ignored, momentarily stunned me into silence. Here was a man who hadn't asked about my plans, goals, or activities once in 4 years, now acting as if my success was a surprise I had deliberately hidden from him. Before I could formulate a response, Uncle David interjected with barely concealed anger on my behalf. "Probably because you haven't asked about her plans once in the past 4 years, Marcus," he said bluntly, his voice carrying clearly through the suddenly quiet room. "At least not in any family gathering I've attended. Every conversation has been about Sophia's sorority, Sophia's grades, Sophia's future plans. When exactly would Maya have mentioned her business to parents who showed zero interest in her life?" An uncomfortable silence fell over the room as relatives processed this direct confrontation of my parents' behavior. Dad's face flushed with a mixture of embarrassment and defensive anger. "We've always supported both our daughters," he insisted, but his voice lacked conviction and his eyes avoided direct contact with anyone in the room. "Financially?" Aunt Susan asked with deceptive innocence, because the university president seemed pretty clear about Maya putting herself through school while building a business. That doesn't sound like family support to me. My mother jumped in quickly, her voice higher than usual with stress and defensiveness. "We had limited resources and had to make difficult choices. Maya has always been very independent and self-sufficient. We knew she could handle things on her own." "Independent by necessity, not by choice," Grandma Rose corrected sharply, her voice cutting through their excuses like a blade. "Let's not rewrite history now that her success has become inconvenient to your narrative of superior parenting." The tension in the room was now palpable and inescapable. Cousins exchanged uncomfortable glances, while my parents struggled to maintain their composure under this unprecedented family scrutiny and criticism. Sophia, surprising everyone with her newfound courage and moral clarity, spoke up clearly and firmly. "Mom, Dad, I think it's time to acknowledge the truth that everyone can see," she said, her voice steady despite the magnitude of what she was about to say. "You favored me from childhood. You invested everything in me and nothing in Maya. You were wrong about her potential, wrong about her character, and wrong about her future. Today, everyone saw the proof of that." Mom's eyes filled with tears, whether from genuine remorse or embarrassment at being called out so publicly in front of extended family was difficult to determine. "We never meant to hurt anyone," she began weakly, her usual confidence completely shattered. "Impact matters more than intent," I interjected calmly, my voice carrying the authority of someone who had earned the right to speak truth to power. Your choices shaped my reality for 18 years, regardless of what you meant to do. The consequences of your decisions are what I had to live with and overcome. Dad, unaccustomed to having his authority and judgment questioned so directly, attempted to regain control of the situation. "This is hardly the time or place for airing family grievances," he said tersely. "We're here to celebrate our graduates." "Yes," Uncle David agreed pointedly, his words loaded with meaning. "We're here celebrating Maya's extraordinary achievements accomplished entirely without your support or encouragement. Rather remarkable topic for a family celebration, wouldn't you say?" The family dinner proceeded with increasingly strained conversation, as my relatives, seeing me through completely new eyes, directed question after question about my business operations, my career plans, and my future goals. With each accomplishment I described, my parents' discomfort visibly increased, as the magnitude of what they had dismissed and overlooked became impossible to deny or minimize. By the time dessert was served, the family dynamics had shifted permanently and irreversibly. Where my parents had always been viewed as the successful, wise center of our extended family, their judgment and parenting decisions now stood publicly questioned and found wanting. The daughter they had deemed less worthy had proven herself exceptional by any objective measure, undermining their credibility and authority entirely. As the evening concluded and relatives prepared to depart, many of them approached me with warm congratulations, and in several cases, business cards and offers of professional connections. The extended family's recognition and support, though coming later than it should have, felt genuinely validating and meaningful. When only immediate family remained in the rental house, Dad made what was clearly a carefully planned attempt at damage control. "Maya, your mother and I have been discussing your situation, and we'd like to help you with the security deposit on a nice apartment near your new job. Consider it a graduation gift to help you get started in your career." The offer, so pathetically small compared to the 4 years of full tuition, room, and board they had provided Sophia, would once have meant everything to me. Now it felt almost insulting in its inadequacy and transparent motivation. "Thank you, but that won't be necessary," I replied evenly, my voice containing no anger but also no gratitude. "My starting salary at Reynolds Global will be $95,000 annually, plus performance bonuses and benefits. My housing situation is quite secure." The figure, substantially more than my father currently earned, landed like a physical blow. His expression cycled through shock, disbelief, and finally a grudging recognition that the daughter he had dismissed had not only survived but surpassed his own professional achievements. "Well," he said finally, struggling to maintain any semblance of composure, "you've certainly proven yourself capable of success." "Yes," I agreed simply, without elaboration or accommodation. "I have. Not that I needed to prove anything to anyone but myself, but the results speak clearly enough." As we prepared to leave for Grandma Rose's house, where Sophia and I would be staying for a few days before heading to our respective new lives, Sophia pulled me aside for a private moment. "I'm staying with Grandma Rose for the next week before I move to my new apartment and start my nonprofit job," she said quietly. "Would you want to join us? Like a mini-family vacation with the family members who actually matter and who have always seen our real worth?" The suggestion, so simple, yet so profound in its reorganization of our family bonds and loyalties, brought unexpected tears to my eyes. "I'd love that more than anything," I whispered, embracing my sister with genuine affection and gratitude for her evolution and support. As we departed, leaving my parents standing uncertainly in the doorway of their rented showcase house with its artificial celebration atmosphere, I felt centuries of emotional weight lifting from my shoulders. Their approval, so desperately sought and painfully withheld for most of my life, had become completely irrelevant in the face of my own verified worth and the recognition of people whose opinions actually mattered. The family I was choosing, Grandma Rose, Sophia, Alex, my mentors and supporters, was the one that had seen my value all along, or had grown to recognize it through genuine relationship. Their recognition and love meant infinitely more than any belated acknowledgement from those who had refused to see my potential until it became impossible to deny. 6 months later, as I settled into my successful consulting career and watched my digital marketing agency continue thriving under excellent management, I reflected on the profound transformation that had taken place. The revenge I had achieved wasn't just professional or financial. It was the deeper victory of refusing to accept others' limitations as my own truth. My relationship with my parents slowly evolved into something more honest, but necessarily distant. They made genuine efforts to repair the damage, attending family gatherings where they actually asked about my work and accomplishments. But trust, once broken so completely, rebuilds slowly and only through consistent, demonstrated change. The Maya Chen Resilience Scholarship had already helped 3 deserving students finance their education and pursue their dreams despite family or financial obstacles. Seeing their gratitude and determination reminded me that the greatest revenge against injustice is creating justice for others facing similar challenges. Sometimes the people who believe in you least provide the greatest motivation, not to earn their approval, but to discover just how far beyond their limited vision you can truly soar. My parents' failure to recognize my worth had forced me to develop unshakable self-knowledge and determination that served me far better than their conditional approval ever could have. The girl who was once told she didn't deserve investment had built an empire, earned national recognition, and created opportunities for others. That transformation was the ultimate revenge, proving that their assessment was not just wrong, but catastrophically, irreversibly wrong. And the best part? I no longer needed them to admit it. If this story resonated with you, if you've ever been underestimated or dismissed by people whose approval you desperately wanted, remember this: your worth exists independently of others' ability to recognize it. Sometimes being underestimated becomes your greatest advantage, forcing you to develop strength, resilience, and determination that ultimately carry you far beyond the limited vision of those who failed to see your potential. Share your own story of overcoming doubt and proving your worth in the comments below. Your journey matters, your achievements are valid, and your potential is limitless, regardless of who fails to see it.